Hey everybody, I'm back, and this video is going to be to help us get a Toposolid inserted into our cabin project. So Toposolid is new in 2024, so that could be dating this video just a little bit. It's a whole new tool that finally allows us to make a thickness to our topography where the dirt and the grass and everything like that exists. So it's kind of nice. It kind of builds somewhat like a floor, so you can have like dirt, gravel, grass or asphalt or concrete in layers, kind of like you're building a subfloor. But after it's built, we can then stretch that top surface to be manipulated so it has hills or valleys and so forth, so that we can create a rolling landscape, so to speak. It gives us lots of options. So with that, hopefully I'm cutting to a little preview of what we're going to be making in tint. Now that we're back, let's get started. So a couple views that are going to be handy to have are obviously the 3D view. You're going to go ahead and get your site plan opened up as well. So let me just scroll up, shut the families down up here. Site plan, main floor, just so you can make sure your section views are going where you think they need to be. You can see I got two big section views that I float around for working tools, and I kind of have my one section view already locked down. I don't want that one to move. House footing bottom also, so I can make sure that I'm going through a window. That's kind of something I guess later on when we have to cut out some of the dirt filling our basement. And then of course those two big section views so I can keep an eye on how everything's relating on the cabin. So with that, I'm actually going to go to the site plan. First thing we're going to do here is actually draw some property lines. So we're going to go to massing and site, property lines. I'm going to do create by sketching and grab the rectangle tool and finally just rough out a rectangle that goes like so. And we'll throw some measurements on here. Side to side, escape. Twice. Click on one purple line. I want to go 200 wide and 125 tall. Click off. And I'll go ahead and re-click on each one of them so I can lock it. Because then once it's locked, I can manually drag this around a little bit to get it close to centered. And I think I could go left just a little bit. If it'll let me. Okay, that's being real picky. It does not have to be perfect at all, just kind of close to center, and we will be just fine. All right, so that defines our property lines. So I can green check mark that now. And there it converts it back to typical property line symbols. And that's just a nice little step because now when we draw our Toposolid, it's predetermined. Of course, not every lot is a perfect little rectangle, but starting out it is for us. All right, we're going to go back to massing and site. Click on Toposolid, the drop, and go create from sketch. Once again, rectangle tool. We should be able to just click the corner points of our property lines. And green check mark. And it says, hey, there's a big warning. You just put Toposolid through your house. And in this case, oops, mine's accidentally water, but we'll switch that in a second. While it's still blue, I believe you're going to be like grassland 16-inch or something is one of your default Toposolids. So I can do that, and I can go back to 3D then, and let's see how that kind of looks. And yes, it's through the cabin. It's not an issue right now, and it's not really thick. It's only 16 inches thick, so that might be the first thing I think we should modify. So to change anything, just like a floor, we're going to left-click on its edge. Turns blue, highlights. I can edit the type. I can edit the structure. And if you're not on Grassland 16, go ahead and switch it to that and then go in here. We'll edit the structure. And 4 inches of grass is fine. Gravel underneath. The main thing is on the earth. Let's just switch that to 10 feet. And then OK. Yep, that's OK. Now if we wanted, we could rename this, or we can rename this and get rid of the 16-inch. It's no longer 16 inches thick. It's just grassland. Click OK and OK again. There we go. We have a nice thick earth material with a grass top layer. Now I'm going to work on moving it up and down in general. So I'll click on it once again to make it blue. Right, left click one time. I can change what level it's associated with. Right now it's main floor, so let's go top of foundation. And I'm going to set it to -6 inches. Enter, enter. And that's just kind of a rough estimate because it's probably going to kind of change on us as we're modifying points and moving things around, but it gets it close to start with. And the general rule of thumb is that we want to have like a 6-inch gap here on the side of our foundation. So if it, water doesn't run over the top of the basement walls and get in or top of the foundation. So that's just something we kind of keep an eye on as we're working with all of our points and creating slopes. I think the next thing to do is actually, because we're going to create a hill and that pond, kind of a flat spot in between them. Let's go to our site plan. And let's just sketch a couple of these shapes just to help keep track of where all these points are going to go. So if I just want to sketch some like general shapes or notes, let's annotate tab and just some detail lines. And I'm going to do an oval shape here, ellipse. And you kind of click where the center of the oval goes and something like that for length, and then you can kind of decide width. Escape a couple times, you can always click it and move it around a little bit. Back up a little bit or stretch it. Sure, something to that effect. So kind of on this side, I want an oval that defines about where the hill's going to go. And then I'm going to make another oval down here for about where the pond goes. So another set of detail lines. Another oval, or if you want to do a series of lines, that's fine too. And you can tilt it and twist it. But again, these just kind of help me keep a rough idea in my head where everything's going. And I'm going to do a couple of lines as well here, because in between the hill and the pond, I'm going to do some points that help us kind of create a flat walkway. Escape one time, then just kind of restart and draw another line out like that. And you can see it doesn't matter if the lines are going off, where they're at. It's very crude. But what I found is that as you're starting to put 20, 30, 40 dots all over this green space, it starts to get a little confusing on what dots are for what. So if you kind of have a few shapes here, I think that helps a little bit. And if you go to other views, those lines don't show up. Those lines are only specific to the site view. There they are. Take a little break here and watch this for a second. So if I click, I'm going to show you the basic idea of what happens to make hills here. I would highlight my Toposolid. If I just want to modify quickly what I have, right there's modify, and you can either modify lines. If I click on an edge, I can drastically change the slope, really fill my house in. Control Z. You can grab corner points and drastically change corner points. So that's all modifying, because this Toposolid had 4 corner points, 4 edges, so therefore you got a few things you could manipulate right away if you want. If at any point you really get messed up, there's a reset button. That's awesome. Click on that, right back to flat and smooth and steady, and you can try again. So it's a really handy tool. And I can't tell you how many times I've used that before I made this video. Alright, so you can go ahead and jump back in here with me now that you've kind of seen a little bit on how we modify Toposolids with points or edges in some scenarios. We're going to be mostly working with points in our cabin project. So I click on the edge of the Toposolid. We're going to add points. We're going to set our elevation to 4 feet. So we're working on the hill first of all. 4, enter. So any point I add now from this point on is 4 feet from the current level, which our current level is top of foundation. I'm actually going to jump back to the site plan. Oh, and that's what Okay, that's something to keep an eye on. I have to reset my elevation one more time for enter. Because when you jump, it probably resets it. That makes sense. And I'm just going to click dots that are somewhat, yep, that's okay. That's a typical warning. It's just saying the dirt's still going through your house. And I'm just going to add dots that are about along the oval here. And how many dots you place is up to you. There's no perfect amount. Okay, if you put dots a little more often, it defines your shape a little bit better. If you have them a little bit more spaced apart, then you get a little bit cruder shape. Cruder shape is the way to say that. So, but don't worry about it. You don't have to perfectly match my dots. Okay, so now if I go back to 3D and take a look, well, look at that. We got a little bit of a hill going. I'm going to go back to site. I'm going to change my elevation to 8 feet, 8, enter. I'm going to put another row of dots inside my oval here. And then what happens is this has actually become somewhat of a flat spot up here, and that's fine. Now if I didn't like exactly where a dot went, I can go up and click modify subelement. That lets me grab these blue dots and I can drag them to create a little bit different shape on the top if I want. And the closer these blue dots are together, the steeper the slope is. There, that looks pretty good for our hill. Go back to 3D. Yeah, sure enough, a little bit taller. Right, so we'll go back to the site plan. I think what I'm going to do is just kind of work top to bottom here. So I'm going to kind of define the walkway so as it doesn't get too crazy. So my walkway, if I add more points, I'm going to change my elevation to -1. Enter. And I'm just going to put a series of dots that go down kind of along my line here. And then right even out at the edge. -1's back this side. Okay, go to 3D. Let's see what that did. Okay. You can see how it kind of it clipped off the hill. The hill's pretty steep right there, and that's the way it goes. I can come back and modify, and I can grab these other dots, and I can stretch and reslope that a little bit later. But I want to make sure I maintain a nice little walking path between my hill and my pond. Alright, good. I'm going to go back to site. We're going to add more points. This time I'm going to go -4, -4, enter. And I'm going to go somewhat around my oval shape here. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then -8. Enter. It's up here in that, so that's where I was entering my values, up in that elevation. And then I'm going to make a nice little inner loop. Got to have a deep spot here for the fish to go down in. Now I know where to sink the bobbers. Yep. Let's go back to 3D. And you can kind of see the valley of the pond through the dirt. Okay, that's look good. You can kind of look at the slope on the house. It's still pretty high in that corner, getting low over there. But all in all, it's looking pretty good. Oh, we got a weird little spot in our pathway. So we have a gap like that. I can go back to site. So you know what? Might need to add one more -1 in between there. Or I could try to drag. I could just try to modify an element first. Maybe I can just pull that over more. Yep, that worked too. Otherwise, if I just would have dropped another dot in there, that would have been an easy fix. Add point, -1, enter. I can still add one, about like that. And I know it's like a perfectly flat surface, but that's okay right now. Alright, now around the cabin, I wanted that, if I go back and look quick, it's all looking pretty good so far. The dirt is high on the house, so I want that down at least 6 inches. So I'm going to go back to my site plan, add a point, set my elevation to -6 inches, -6 inches, enter. And I'll go ahead and just click kind of here at the corner point of the walls. You can see it knows to snap to those right there. And I might even just do both sides right there. Go back to 3D, let's see how that looks. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. The only issue I would say right now is that whenever it rains, water is going to flow down my hill. If I just even hit modify to get rid of the blue dots for a second. Right, I'm going to have water rolling down my hill. So I might need to drop in some more points so this is flatter or even sloping away from my house. Remember, the walkway was -1, so I think that might be good to carry out across here. So go back to site plan, click on the Toposolid one time, add points, -1, enter. And where this walkway was kind of ending, I'm just going to carry out some -1s out across this way, all the way up to the edge there. Back to 3D, escape or modify up there. We'll just hit escape, escape. There we go. Yep, escape a couple times. Okay, that's looking good. So technically we have like a -6 up at the house, we got a -1 here, so that's sloping 6 inches away towards the hill. So essentially that creates a little trough, and then that should run one way or the other. Main thing is it's away from the house, so that's good. Now our pond is kind of low over here, so I might actually want to add some -1s over here also. So back to the site, it's kind of just tinkering here. Highlight blue, add points, -1. I'm going to carry that walkway thing, and kind of that's the last spot there. I'm going to go halfway between the house and perhaps even make a loop around the pond down to that edge. Back to 3D. Oh yeah, that's looking good. Yep. That's looking pretty good. Sloping down and away. Now this side's really flat yet, so I mean if we want to make it a little bit more interesting, I do like that we got some basement showing, that's good. We could just have it kind of continue to slope down and away from the house. So I might highlight this one more time, just modify a sub element. Now this time, I might just click on the corner points is what I'm thinking. Let's go -2, enter. Click on this corner point, that little text box, -2, enter. And that just creates a generally slope, or a nice big general slope away from the house yet out to this side of the property. Escape a couple times, and I think that looks pretty good for a nice little hill on the side. Kind of got a pond area going on there. And a good general landscape. And if yours is a little different shapes, or it's a little smaller hill, a little smaller pond, that's fine. Just don't have your house sitting in the pond or in the hill, and I think we'll be just fine. So, okay, good. That's a good start on that. Let's see here. Pond. So if we want to make it look like we have a pond or water in our pond, sorry, want to make it look like there's water there, we're actually going to go back into massing and site. We're going to do another Toposolid from sketch. You need to save your project. It's always a good idea. Save often in this class. As these projects get bigger, it's really important. Alright, so what has to happen is we just have to create a whole nother solid that overlaps this one so it looks like it's kind of filled in. And in this case, I'm just going to grab the line tool actually. We could try the pill shape, it might work, but in fact we can even draw this one probably right in 3D view. If I just click and do a straight down view, and I'm just going to click what I kind of think is about the halfway, I don't know, down a little bit from the flat, up from the bottom. So I'm kind of a little bit down on the slope of the pond, right? There should be a here, and then I go just long straight one back across and close it in. Now ultimately you probably could have taken it right around almost the edge of the slope, because we're going to sink it down into the surface, so it won't matter. The green check mark once you have a general shape made. Yep, the two Toposolids overlap. I got it. Close the little warning box. Click here. Yep, we got water floating in air. It's amazing. Now, if you don't happen to have a water level, just like anything else, you highlight whatever Toposolid came in, you'd edit type, you duplicate, you create a water one. All right, go in here, set it to water. 4 feet is just the number I picked. It could be at least 2, I would think, is a good number. 2 or 4 feet is probably a good number to have there in general. And in that, I did a water layer. If I didn't have one, I created one new. Create new layer. Then this, if it wasn't water, I went into the library right there. Found water. Searched water. Under liquids right here, scroll down to a water that I liked, and while that's highlighted back there, you double click on these and that sends this material into that property. And then from there you can adjust a few things like what color you want. In general, when it's graphics, when it's shading, you can use rendered or just pick your own blue, and so on and so on. So water layer, 2 or 4 feet, click OK, OK. And then the big thing here is that just simply when you highlight it, click on its edge, you're going to send it down into the ground. Now if you happen to have a garage foundation, that might be a good level. You can click on it and try it. Think that looks good? Then looks good to me. So but if you have any weird gaps, you can always go Control Z. Now I can click on this, I can edit my sketch and say, you know what, I did goof up that shape a little bit. Let me look straight down again. So you know what, I need this corner point to go out here a little bit more, and maybe that then to match there. Because maybe I had an air gap or something showing when it sank down. Green check mark. If you don't have a garage footing foundation, you can also just sink it by saying -3, enter, enter, right? It's 3 feet below the main floor. That also will sink it down. There we go. Now we have a hill, we have a pond. We're happy with how the Toposolid's looking. But our big problem is that if we go to a section view, our basement's full of dirt and grass. We need to clear that out. And here's how we do that. We're going to go to Architecture tab, Component, hit the drop. We're going to model in place. We're going to make our own component. It's going to be a box, nothing fancy, but it's going to still a component. We scroll all the way down here. Toposolids. Click on that, hit OK. And I happen to just rename this Toposolid dash foundation cutout. Click OK. Now we're in the modeling tools of Revit. Right now, if you're really modeling a component, you probably would have to add materials first, and then you'd have voids to create notches in here. But we are here just to create the notches and the voids. So we're going to click on void. We're going to do a void extrusion. And we're going to pick lines or pick surfaces, essentially. So go ahead and pick line tool. And we're going to zoom in here. We're going to carefully select surfaces of our basement. And see that purple line show up? And I'll get this surface of the basement. There's a purple line. A little easier to see sometimes when it rotates, but you got to zoom in carefully and really slowly move the mouse until that surface highlights. Left click. And each time I rotate, I'm checking back here to see that those corners connected. Oh, look at that. If they don't connect, just like that, you go up here to the Trim and Extend tool. Click on the Trim Extend. Now click each line you want to extend, and there they connect. I rotate this around just because it's easier to see there. I think they are all connected, and that is good. want to set our plane to the top of foundation. So that's just kind of where the 0 point of our void becomes. I know that probably means nothing, but go ahead and just click this set tool up top, set a work plane, and we're going to change it to top of foundation because that's the main area that we're cutting out. Click OK. The purple lines all just drop down a little bit. It's all good. And then we green check mark our sketch. And then we're going to go to a section view, because right here we're still in the void extrusion tool. It says that right on the very top. We now have to kind of define, we've got the footprint made, but we have to define how tall the cutout is. And I want to snap to the top of the footing, which is a little bit of a challenge to see here. If I go off, I can still look off to the side there. Watch the footing. Yep, it snaps right to it. And then I should be able to green check mark this, because the top of the void is up above the grass plenty. It won't cut our floor. It should be just cutting that once we use the cut tool. There we go. It's like, whoa, what just happened there, right? Some kind of magic happened. I just hit escape a few times. So I drug the void, which is hard to visualize. It's a big empty box of air. Maybe think of it that way, right? If I build right now, the void is only this thick. If I pull this down, it's just a shape I've defined. Again, it should be going down to that footing there. If I don't like it, I can always move it. I can bring it back up through, and then it snaps to the first thing. There we go. And right now, as you can see, the orange lines going around, that's defining this box of air. But I need that box of air to cut the dirt. And that's what this cut tool is all about. It selects geometry to cut. So if I click on cut, click the dirt or the grass, and then I go in and I click right on the orange. It uses that orange to define what to cut out of the dirt. And that clears out the basement. And I can go to my other section view just to prove that it cleared out the basement. It looks pretty good. Now, the other thing I need to do is still use that cut tool some more. Actually, I can finish model first, sorry. Finish model. There we go. The void is done to clean out the basement. The problem we have is our footings are still being covered up. Right, but we're still going to use the same cut tool. So cut, click on the footing, click on the grass, cancel, try that in reverse order, cut, grass, then footing, then it works. Cut, grass, footing, oh, I missed, bad shot. Grass, footing, got it. Go to my other section view. Cut tool, grass, footing. Cut tool, grass, footing. And I know this view is kind of weird why it's green, it's gray. I'm not sure what's going on there. I think my graphics card is going glitchy or something. Yeah, now it's all gray on this one. Weird. If I go back to 3D, yeah, everything's fine. We still got dirt on the side. Yeah, I think just my graphics card glitch in there just a little bit. So, okay, what else here? Okay, that creates those voids. The other voids we need to work on are for our window wells. And then this really long video, holy shnikes, will be set. So to work on the window wells, we need to go back to 3D, right? Because we need to create little notches for these windows so they're out in the open. We're going to do this one more time. We're going to go Architecture, tab, Component, Model in Place, all the way down. Toposolid. Click OK. This one I'll name Toposolid dash window wells. Click OK. We're back in component mode, so we're going to create another void from extrusion. We're ready to draw. So this one, let's go to house footing bottom, because we're going to draw some rectangles that are based off the side of the walls. Go out and about and draw 4 rectangles. These are going to eventually be air spaces. We're going to dimension them all in a little bit here. Just got to get them roughed in. Escape. And each one is going to be dimensioned 2 feet from the edge. They're going to be 4 feet wide. And they're going to stick out 2 feet. So click on that. 2, enter. Click on that. 4, enter. Click on this one. 2, enter. Repeat 3 more times. And I'll see if I can't fast forward or just work really fast. 2 feet from the outside. 4 feet up. Enter. Enter. 2, enter. Dimension again. 2, enter. 2, enter. And 4, enter. So essentially we're creating window wells that are centered on the windows, if you haven't noticed. And 2, enter. 4, enter. 2, enter. Alright, that defines our window well shapes. Let's see, just double check my notes here. Window well, sketch on that. We want to sketch all 4 at one time, because we can create the voids all at one time. We want to set the work plane again. So we'll go up there to set. That's a work plane symbol. Set work plane. Let's make sure we're at top of foundation. Click OK. We can green check mark that we're done sketching our shapes. Go back to 3D. And what we want to do on this one now is change our extrusion end to -2, enter, enter. That did is if I highlight it, it puts the extrusion down in, before it was starting at the top of foundation going up 1 foot. So what I just did was extrusion start as 0. That means it's level with the top of foundation, and it ends at -2 feet down. And now we can go use that cut tool. Cut. Click the green grass. Click the orange boxes. Rotate around, cuts them all at once, just like that. And now we have window wells. So we have a spot for that. Those windows can be cracked open to get air in and out of the basement and let that thing breathe a little bit. And that is good. Now of course, they might have some kind of metal retainer or something else too, but in general, that's a good window well. Alright, green check mark. That is done. We can go back and check some section views. Not that one, but that one, there we go. Yeah, you can see my Toposolid's all kind of back to normal now, so it's just a graphics card glitch when it goes gray sometimes. There's our window well we just created. Window wells typically have some kind of drainage, like a drain tile hose that collects any water that would gather here so it doesn't flood our windows. Often that's just a pipe that goes down and hooks into the other drainage system that goes around footings and back all into a sump pump. and then you eject it out and away from the house. It's kind of a side note there. But okay, I think that's looking pretty good. I definitely will throw subregions in its own little video because this one is pretty darn long. Hope I can edit it down to shorter than the time I'm looking at here. Thanks for following along. I hope this gets you there. We'll see you in the next video.